Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast. Here, sitting on the stoop, we're about to get the scoop. Y'all asked, we delivered. Some y'all talked about financial strategies. We dug in the crates and we pulled out two amazing people. They co-authored a great book. And y'all are going to wait because y'all are so excited. But before we start, this episode is going to hit money, legacy, and strategy. And it's going to give you a peace of mind. That means it's not just going to be informative, it's going to be life-changing. Mark my words. With the two dynamic people y'all see on the screen, Russ and Mike, the co-authors of Beyond Break Even. It's going to be stepping into a conversation that moves people from retirement confusion to retirement clarity. It's going to be about protecting your spouse. It's going to be about protecting yourself, reducing lifetime taxes, avoiding costly mistakes, and building a retirement strategy rooted in clarity instead of guesswork. If you care about financial resilience, legacy, and making smarter decisions for your future, this conversation is going to be for you. So let's get right into it. Let's dive in here on the scoop. Greetings, Russ and Mike. How y'all doing today?
Oh.
Great, Kings. Thanks for having us. We're pumped.
Kings, I think we've got 2 against 1, but I know we cannot meet your energy, so we're gonna really have to step this up.
We need more coffee.
I think we need 3 more people in here and make it 5-on-1. We'll get close.
Look, you want to know the secret? Celtic sea salt water and a squeeze of key lime.
Okay.
Get you right.
There you go.
Time. Super
Get your electrolytes going.
Electrolytes going is ready. But before we start
awesome.
and dive into this great book, Beyond Break Even, what's the scoop? I want to start on you, Russ. What's the scoop on Russ? Give me a little 2-minute, elevator pitch on Russ, and then I'm going to go to Mike. What's the scoop on Russ?
Sure, yeah. So spent 9 years almost. I mean, 8 years is 10 months and 22 days, but no one's really counting that. So 9 years active duty Air Force. I was in the medical service for all of that time. I was in the healthcare administration space as a civilian when I first got out. And essentially I was helping health systems acquire physician practices and operationalizing them. And in business school, I found my calling in financial planning and investment management because I have a drive to help people. And I was like way out of helping people directly in what I was doing and dealing more in middle management. So I knew I wanted to change, luckily found my passion. And so you fast forward as a financial planner, I found my niche or my calling in retirement income planning where I could help people the most. And what I didn't know then was that, or I guess I didn't realize, was that I was giving advice around when people should claim Social Security as part of their integrated retirement income plan, but I didn't know enough about it, at least I thought, to give great advice. And so I partnered with Mike. He had been certified in Social Security claiming strategies and was the expert in our office. And long story short, I got certified to be able to serve clients better. And Mike and I partnered in our endeavors to really, help people optimize their retirement income plan and really understand the complex nature of their probably largest lifetime income benefit that they're going to have that they know nothing about. And there's really conflicting and even poor information out there about it and how to actually make it work within your retirement income plan. So it's been a quest now for going on 5 years in the space, but partnering with Mike, who's been doing it a lot longer. So that's kind of the quick scoop on me and where I am now, how I got here.
Awesome, Russ. Thank you for coming to the community and sharing your knowledge and insight and not being a gatekeeper to this information. So I greatly appreciate it. And on behalf of our listeners and audience, I'm sure they second and third that motion as well.
Yeah. It's glad to be here and to share the message. We love talking about it. We're kind of nerdy about it. So
we definitely are.
We want to help as many people as we can.
Awesome. Mike, what's the scoop on you?
Yeah.
What's the scoop on Mike?
I'll tell you what, this goes back to probably when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. I just remember being around a kitchen table and I just remember yelling from my mother and my father about money. and it would be, you can't keep buying things. I can't work enough to keep affording new couches and new carpeting and paint and new stuff in this house. And I just remember thinking, whoa, yeah, dad, he's a banker. He works concession for different sporting events. And he also teaches other up and coming bankers at night. Man, he isn't around much. He's trying to earn money and mom just keeps spending. And that led to a divorce when I was about 8 years old. And I just remember thinking, Kings, man, money is a real big deal. Like, I mean, I know it buys our groceries and, pays the bills, but man, if I ever want anything in life, I better figure out how to handle money and what it's all about. So, I went through college and I was basically told, hey, you know, you're going to become a programmer. You're good with math and science, so you're going to go into first it was engineering, and I had no idea what that meant, but I ended up in systems analysis, and I thought, man, I'm overmatched. There's so many smart people in this computer programming area and senior systems analysts and all that. So I ended up transitioning into human resources, trust plans administration, changed careers again and went into teaching. And I think it was all of that that led to me then saying, let's see, money, business, structure, process, and then finally education of all these things. I said, I think financial advisory work is where I really want to be. So becoming a financial advisor and then realizing there was such a void, Russ alluded to this. There was such a void in what people understood about Social Security. And I'd say,
Yeah.
geez, we're going to talk about returns on investment, but we're kind of missing one of the biggest things these people are going to make a choice on, and that's a guaranteed inflation adjusted type of income that lasts forever. And the bigger benefit stays in a household when one person passes. And I thought, I really need to know more about this. It's not good enough to say, hey, what do you want to do? Like just go along to get along with people. So, you know, many, years later, I find that what Russ and I now do is profoundly important. And I know that the outcomes that we can often find for people are so much better right out of the gates of working full time right into retirement. Not 5 and 10 years later when they say, "Oh no, what's going on? This isn't working." So we just love what we do. We feel like we can catch people before they get into this very kind of perilous financial journey when they're no longer meeting their income needs by working. Now they're counting on their own wealth and things like Social Security to basically do it for them. So we love what we do. We love what we do.
And
Absolutely.
this is awesome because so for our listeners that's listening on Spotify or whatever your platform is, they have a background behind them of their book. It says Beyond Break Even. So for our viewers, I know y'all can see that, but my question to Russ and Mike is, what made y'all team up to come up with this book with close to 200 pages of knowledge from, like I said, I read through that book and I was blown away by how detailed and how strategic the book is woven in, and we're gonna talk about some of this stuff. We're gonna go through it because I know after we have this conversation, they're gonna be flooding to your website. They're gonna be flooded to Amazon just to get this book because this knowledge right here, it's a game changer.
Yeah. So, Mike and I served and yeah, I guess our practice, we see a lot of people, together we probably serve definitely over 500 plus households. And they've been through our process and our certification Social Security claiming strategies. I mean, it really applies to everyone nationwide, right? So the whole idea of writing the book was, hey, you and I are better together, number one, and we're pretty much like the same person. You talk to me, you talk to him, you're getting the same kind of vibe, the same information, the same clarity, the same attention to detail. Like we're one of the same, but better together. And in the book, we felt like because this is a national program, we can just reach a much larger audience because people around the country don't necessarily know us. But if we can get the book in their hands, they can really understand who we are and the people that we can help and read through story, how powerful an impact you can have if you have the right person, the right team helping you. And so that was the whole idea behind the book, to get our message out to as many people as we can. and to basically have them change the mindset of typical Social Security claiming strategies, which is looking at it in isolation, in a silo, and going, when do I think I'll die? And at what
Right.
age will I get the most out of the system by claiming based on that number? It goes far beyond that. And we can turn hopeless cases oftentimes when people think they have a hopeless retirement income plan into a thriving retirement income plan that gives them peace, clarity, and allows them to live in their golden years or the best years of their life without having to really worry about how to put the plan into action. We're told we're poor savers as Americans, but I think a big part of it is people don't really know how to retire, especially if they don't have a pension. So they
Right.
have to understand how to formulate their retirement income plan and really use Social Security as the cornerstone of that retirement income plan.
Yeah, and Kings, I'd add this. Nearly to a person, anybody we'd ever ask, have you considered Social Security income? What are your thoughts? Nearly to a person, Kings, everyone would say, well, yeah, I have. And I did the numbers, I did the math. And the math is simply, if I don't take the benefit, let's say at age 62, then I have to live to be 78 years old if I compare it to the taking at 66, because you'll get a lower number, a lower monthly benefit at 62 versus age 66. So the break even point is age 78. So I won't get all that money out until age 78 if I don't start taking it now. And I'd say, I get it. I get it. And I can do that math with you. We could either do it on a calculator or on an Excel spreadsheet. However, there's far, far more to this than that. And that was the reason we said you have to think beyond a break-even analysis or beyond break-even, because I mean, it's too simplistic and it's also too difficult to try to figure out what your longevity, what your own mortality will be once you're at, like, say, 60 to 62 years old with that very
Right.
critical decision at hand. The other thing we say is, Social Security agents, I'm sure many of them, maybe all of them, really do their best. They do all the work the best they can. But those field agents are not supposed to give advice. They're supposed to follow your lead. They're supposed to say, what do you want to do, Kings? And you have to go in
Right.
armed with all the information and data. And then they're supposed to follow directions. So we don't think you should go to Social Security for advice. They're not supposed to give it. And so, we can provide in a specialized way the pros and cons of different claiming decisions. We have proprietary software that supports everything in a more science-based way, a fact-based way. And then, of course, as you can sort of lead a horse to water and you can't
Yeah.
make them drink. So whatever they
Right.
choose to do, that's all right with us. Like
Right.
I never try to like change someone's mind, but we do like to educate and get them to a point where they can say, I see all of the different things ahead of me with clarity, and I like that choice, and I'm going to go with
Right.
that. And we can say, well, we're going to walk side by side with you now, and let's get there.
Wow.
No doubt.
That's good. And I'm just thinking about, because I reached out to a couple of my listeners and they sent some questions, and I'm going to ask some of the rapid fire questions at the end.
Beautiful.
Sure.
And this is great because, what I shared with y'all before we hit the record button, I said, I love to share information, right? I don't love to be a gatekeeper. I want to share information. Now, what you do with the information is on you, right? And
Right.
and, and that's what both of y'all allude to. Definitely in the book, like, hey, we're gonna lay it out, because everybody in the book, you say everybody's different. Everybody has a different situation. Everybody's scenario is different. Is what's best for you, and basically the cost of capital and strategy. So if you, Mike or Russ, if y'all could explain the cost of capital in plain language, because I know that's one of the confusion. Like, oh man, capital, like like the U.S. capital, like what capital are you talking about?
No, we get
Albany?
Yeah, right.
Right. I'll let my buddy start here.
Yeah. So simply put, think of capital as the money you saved that is going to fund your retirement. Okay. Now, would you want to use more of that or less of that to meet your goals, your retirement income goal year after year after year? Basically is how we look at cost of capital. How much of what we saved do we need allocated to help us achieve the income goal, inflation adjusted, over the retirement period of me and my spouse, or if you're single, you. And when you look at the Social Security claiming strategy, after we figure out from people, what is it that you like to do? What does it cost? What are things that are fixed expenses that don't go away? What are some of the variable expenses that you do or don't want to include in your annual expenses? And we plan around that number, and we use the Social Security claiming strategy to drive down the amount of capital or your money that you need towards meeting that annualized goal. And by doing that, right, then we just give you more of your own money to spend on extra things, or to maybe save and invest for legacy for your family, maybe to give to charity, to empower you to do what you want with it, not have to commit it to income. And I don't think people really know when they start retirement, more often than not, how much of their wealth they actually need committed to markets to sustain the income that they need. And I can tell you, most people have no idea how to leverage Social Security to drive that number down. It's more risk management, right? The paradigm from saving to then spending, the save it years and spend it years, accumulating to distributing, is a game changer. It's a lot different, and there's a lot of risk because you don't want to run out of money. That's the worst possible thing, right? So that's in plain language what capital is. It's just the money you have that you can spend to meet your living expenses, and how do we use the least amount of that with the right Social Security claiming strategy. And then once we figured all that out, because we're comprehensive financial planners, we're trying to figure out the most tax efficient retirement income plan, and throughout your whole life, your legacy you're leaving for your kids, the estate planning piece, whether that's wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, beneficiary assignments, avoiding probate, estate tax, all those types of things, long-term care coverage, long-term care insurance, life insurance, like all of that stuff. We can then answer with clarity everything else after we figured out, hey, can you retire and live how you want? Right. So
wow,
that's the long answer.
There's so much we could pick apart, honestly, Kings. And I think of this when I meet people, either they've tried to go it alone or they've thought they were getting some help already. And when I meet them and I start listening to them, I think, oh my gosh, how underserved you've been and how undereducated you are. And I don't blame them, but there's not a lot of people out there that know how to make sense of what you've accumulated and how to then use it. There's a lot of financial advisors, lots of investment firms that just want to talk about the products. How is this stock performing in that mutual fund and that exchange traded fund, and how are we better than the other guy? And they love that financial planning part of things, and they like to talk about portfolios.
Not that that's not important.
It's all important during accumulation, no doubt, because you want to stay invested. You want to try to get certain average amounts of returns per year, and you want to reach a number, right? Whatever that number is. And people, like Russ said, they don't often know what the number is. But in our industry, it's so misunderstood how to then take what you've created, the capital, and how to then best use it. And because there's such a lack of knowledge about Social Security claiming, the advice is often, whatever you heard at the water cooler or at the coffee pot at work. It's why wouldn't you take that? That's the money you paid into that. You should start taking it. Get it now while it's there. Oh my gosh! Like what if? All the what ifs, and they get scared into taking it. Right. Now, if you have a financial advisor, they might be saying, well, Kings, what do you want to do? And you'll say, I feel like that's pretty appealing to get money from the government. Usually I give money to the government. I get money out? Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course I want to take it. And a financial advisor might often just say, well, good for you, Kings. Go get it. It's yours. You paid into that system. Go get it. And then around that decision, that might not be the best decision for you. They then say, well, let's see what we can do now about supporting the rest of the income gap that you still have. You're not working. You're going to have Social Security income, maybe no
Right.
pensions. Not everyone has those, but now we
Right.
need your wealth to support you. And honestly, I hate to say it like this, but they often are hoping that they retire before you go broke, or they hope
Yeah.
that you pass away before you go broke, because
Yeah.
they do not want to be around when they see this declining amount
Right.
of wealth and have to answer to you like, how did you let this happen? They're going to say, what do you mean, Kings? I didn't let it happen. You spend your money. We
Right.
can do far better. We can do far, far better than that. It's just not planning properly with intent to succeed. It's a
Right.
hope and a dream of hoping that you have the retirement you wished for.
See, and Mike, I wish I had this when I was younger, when I first came in the service, because I was, um, how can I say? I was young and I didn't know, right? I had a financial planner say, talked about what you said, like, oh yeah, this stock is gonna grow, let's do this there, but did not sit down and explain to me, like, hey, you're in your 20s. Let's look at your retirement planning now. I probably would have said retirement. I'm in my 20s. I wanna,
Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna get
wanna
old.
maximize everything. I'm not gonna
It's
get
not
old.
going
Like
to be
I'll worry
me.
about that when I get there. But now I'm here. I like, wow, how much more I would have been in a better place. I'm in the right place, but been in a better place with your book. And one of my next question to both of you, if both of y'all can answer, it'd be awesome. Why is retirement planning really tax planning? Because both of y'all hit on it earlier, right? And the book definitely touched on it. It's like it's not just about retirement plans, it's about tax planning because it's all about that tax bracket, right? Like, where do you fall in the tax bracket? Like, just because that you're making certain amount doesn't mean that you're gonna be taking home certain amount, and then you could put
That's
that
right.
into some type of retirement account to where it will bring down your annual salary or your annual living wages, which will put you in
Mhm.
that lower tax bracket, which means that more you could take home. So if y'all could explain that, that would be awesome.
Well, I'll let Russ go into a lot of detail. He actually is the lead on a lot of the tax conversation when we do our workshops. And here's the phrase I'd say to everyone: remember this. It's not what you make; it's what you keep. All right. And I say
Yes.
this all the time. I know that you will spend your money far better than any federal, state, county, municipality, any government body you can think of. I know you'll be a better steward of your own money. So, but there's really only one tax, table. So whatever you are as a single person or married filing joint or whatever head of household, there's only one set of federal tax tables. So, it's really important to know them not only while you're working, but while you're retired. So I'll leave it at that for Russ to jump in.
I think the earlier you can sit down with someone, right? To your point, like if you knew when you were in your early 20s, right? New airmen sit down, hey, this is what the TSP is.
Right.
And
Mhm.
now there's a Roth TSP. And now there's a match. Like, my gosh, I wish I had that all when I was in.
Right.
But tax planning really starts as early as you start retirement planning. And I think what I mean by that is you don't want to necessarily look at, I mean, you do, but you don't want to get bogged down by looking year by year by year. You want to look at the big picture.
Mhm.
And when you're young, it's hard to do that. But what I mean by that is when you're investing and saving in retirement accounts, whether it's a Roth or traditional, the growth is all compounded and it's all tax deferred. But at the end, let's just say you invested from age 20 to age 50, no, 60. Let's use a 40-year time horizon. The same amount of money in both each a Roth and each traditional IRA. Person A did a Roth, person B did a traditional IRA. Your balances would be the same at the end, right? Depending on how much you invested. But I can tell you this, the majority of the balance is not what they put in, it's the growth.
Mhm.
Right.
And the growth is what's tax free in a Roth. And as it continues to grow, it's always tax free. In the traditional, every dollar is taxable and it continues to grow and it continues to all be taxable. You only save tax on the contribution, which is a very small portion of that account. So when you have the power of time and compound interest,
Mhm.
you can really do yourself a lot of favors by being Roth heavy early. Now, that
Mm,
being said, by the time people get to us, I would say the majority of people either didn't know about Roth or they weren't as popular. So getting ready to
Mhm.
retire now, most of their wealth is in a traditional 401k or a TSP if they're government employees or traditional IRAs.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to design income plans for them. We want to make sure they can retire and how to do it and how to position their investments to do so. But then we pivot to how can we make you as tax efficient now for the rest of your life and even into the next generation? And a lot of
mm,
times that's turning some of that money into Roth, and that can happen as well. And there's all sorts of alternative. I shouldn't say all sorts, but there's alternative options to be able
Mhm.
to plan around reducing taxes over the rest of the retirement period. But when it comes to income, retirement income, the heavier your income plan is weighted in Social Security, typically the more tax efficient your income will be in retirement.
mm.
But if you do nothing around that, a lot of times you have what's called a tax time bomb and a big like you think your tax bracket will go down in retirement, but a lot of times that's not the truth.
Mhm.
If you
Oh,
look at the
wow.
big picture, and depending on how much money you saved and where you saved it. So um, if you can, you start early and you're educated on why it is you're doing what you're doing. So you really understand and you're bought in. Um,
Wow.
so there's a lot
Wow.
to it, but that's what I think of when I think of tax planning. You can start as early as you can, just to your point.
Wow, I appreciate that. And one of the main chapters I love because I love pictures and I love graphs and diagrams is y'all talked about it in chapter 3, the 5 pillars,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That really broke it down for me. Like I said, if I had to give this to young kings at 20, he will understand that picture perfectly. So if y'all could just kind of go through the
Sure.
5 pillars, and then we'll just roll because I know we're gonna be crunched for time, but I just want to
Oh,
really
yeah, yeah.
touch on the 5 pillars because it's great to optimize it and it's a great framework for somebody who just now getting into that strategy.
Absolutely. So the 5 pillars that we talk about in the book are timing, taxation, coordination, longevity, and legacy. So
Mm,
just breaking these down a little bit. Timing really comes down to, and it's often for married couples, Kings, that this idea of optimization really comes into play. Things get a little more complex when you have another person to consider, and another person kind of side by side going through a lifestyle together. And so timing really comes down to not just one person's timing for claiming, but it could be two people's timing. And is because a primary earner might actually help the other lower earner benefit from things like spousal benefits, other
Mm.
oh,
auxiliary
wow.
benefits, that dependent children could even have if they're under age 19. And then, of course,
Wow.
if is there a passing in a household, the biggest social security benefit stays in the household. So a lot of times timing really matters in order to protect a loved one in your absence. When we talk about taxation, Russ just alluded to it. There's really a formula called the provisional income formula. And Russ always covers it like this. He says, will you be taxed for Social Security income? And he says, it depends. And it really does depend. It
I
depends
hate
on,
that answer
it
too,
Right.
but it's
depends.
true.
It's so true, and it's the honest answer though, because it really depends on your household, and it really largely depends on the other sources of income in your household to decide then how much of your Social Security income will be taxed.
Mm,
Coordination really then relates to, hey, don't just think of yourself here. If you have a spouse, if you have children, and this goes beyond just the Social Security decision, it goes to all of the capital. Like, what's the
right.
coordination of claiming benefits and the coordination of spending down some of your capital, maybe prior to claiming Social Security benefits, but then at Social Security claiming, how much more do you need to fill a gap to live the lifestyle you wish for whatever duration you want? Now, we always say, this isn't us making up the data and
Mm,
this isn't us giving you your numbers. You give us your numbers. You tell us, to what level of certainty do you want? How long of a retirement are you planning for? What are you bringing in terms of capital to this whole problem solving table? Longevity. we think that longevity is the one thing people just don't think much about. They think about
Right.
market risk, they talk about taxes, they talk about inflation, but all of these risks that people face are all exponentially worse if you live a long life. Let's face it, if you knew you were going to go at 70 years old, you might only have 5 to 6 years of time to worry about those things. But
Right.
if you live long and then your spouse lives even longer, it's a much longer period to worry about longevity. So we try to bring that to the table sooner and not later. And then the last one is legacy. We joke and we say, we have a lot of people who say, I want to spend every dollar of my retirement money.
Right to zero.
We
Yep.
we took care of the
Balance it out,
kids.
zero it out. Yeah.
We took care of the kids. They'll be fine on their own. They're already making more money than us, or we paid for their education. We helped them with weddings and down payments on homes. And we joke and we say, yeah, but wouldn't it be cool to have a legacy for the kids, maybe your grandkids? And I think they then agree, like, yeah, we just never thought it would be possible. And we say, well, I'll tell you what, you help us understand you. We'll help you with these 5 pillars. We'll help you resurrect or resurrect the notion of legacy. We'll put the paddles to the legacy and bring it back to life, because we can help you figure out how to use your capital best so you do leave a legacy in many, many cases.
Wow. 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 I know people are jotting down notes and getting information. So when I went through the book, I would just highlight and I share the story about my memory my memory process, how it is. So I'm a person of analogies, right? So when I was going through the book, these are like I went through the book and I picked out 5 things that hit me. And what I shared with you, like, man, this really makes sense for me. So I'm going to share it with you for the first time and with the listeners, like, wow, that there go Kings again. So Social Security as a lifetime pension lever. That's how I think of it. Lifetime pension lever.
Yep.
Taxes as a silent retirement partner. Sequence risk is as retirement erosion.
Yeah.
Optimization, like when I have to optimize this. I have to make this better. And we know in the military, it's all about that mission planning, right? That op order for for the operators out there, the 5-paragraph op order, mission planning. And then the one that we talk about that we just touched on is that once it's time for us to transition, right? That dollar amount, you could put no dollar amount on it, right? Because that's somebody that's no longer going to be here. Is that survivor benefit as a financial insurance for loved ones. That's what I took away from the book.
That's spot on. I love that. I love the.
We might steal some of this
I
from
love
you,
your
Kent.
I love your tax analogy. Your silent partner
I
through
love it.
retirement.
It's
I
silent
love it.
partner, right? Because it's like, and I tell people, I say, when I'm reading silent, I have to think of ways how I can remember it. Just
Yeah.
like in the business, right? You have a silent partner. You don't know they're there, but they make sure that you don't, that you don't go too far off the rails, or like, hey, I'm
no.
going to support you in this right here, and we need to stay, on task, right? We can't have a lot of squirrel moments. We need to be locked in.
Right.
We're trying to get somewhere. So
So
if y'all could share any insights, because I know when I was going through the book, I was like, wow, how did they kind of weave in and out these chapters and just highlighting these key points along the way, to where if I could understand it as somebody from the inner city, and somebody could understand it from the Midwest, and somebody could understand it from overseas, and it's relatable across the board, no matter who picks up the book.
I think the biggest thing, what you said about Social Security, is the pension lever, I believe is what you said.
Yes.
That's how people really need to start thinking about the benefit. It is a pension. It's so funny. You think about Social Security, you think about a pension. Pensions always seem to be held in higher regard, when in fact, many people don't get them. Many pensions, I mean, probably a lot of your listeners do. A lot of federal pensions get cost of living adjustments, but many private pensions don't get any living adjustments. You get paid $1,000 a month the rest of your life. It never goes up. Social Security, right? It's your highest 35 years of earnings. It is cost of living adjusted, just like your federal pensions are. the bigger benefit stays in the household, right? So there's survivor benefits
Mm-hmm.
attached to it. And it's probably the most secure type of pension you'll ever have. And so I think people need to start thinking about it as a pension and not just, oh, Social Security, yeah, it might not be there when I get there. I'll tell you what, I just met with someone who said, Russ, I was told it wouldn't be there, and now I'm meeting with you trying to figure out how it's going to be incorporated in my retirement plan.
Right.
And the government will always make sure it's there. They have to. It's our money. Far too many people live only on it, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
So don't buy into an emotional decision, a fear-based decision. Get the facts, see how it applies to you, and make an educated decision.
For sure. And I'd say, Kings, just to wrap that up, I mean, we're not proponents of a certain age. Everyone is unique. Some people have to claim Social Security at 62. They get the letter. We call it an invitation, not an obligation to claim their Social Security benefits. They get the letter that says you are fully insured and now you could claim a benefit. Some people have to, but there's a lot of people we meet who have some choices they could consider. And so the thing I would say is, don't do what others do just thinking that must be right. Even if they're highly intelligent people, they're doing something that should accommodate their household and their needs. You need to do something that accommodates your own self, your spouse, and your needs. And we have to gather those things from people. We call it discovery. So if people want to meet with us, we could talk for 15 to 20 minutes and just get a little bit of a sense about you. We could go deeper in a longer discovery conversation. We can do virtual sessions together. In some cases, we can meet in person, but generally it's going to be virtually. And, people just have to give us information so that we can go ahead and develop a plan, deliver it to them. And, maybe we then become lifelong partners too. But that's for later to decide. I think just take a more intentional approach, just like you might with your own health. A lot of times people think, I'm fine. I can eat whatever I want. I can behave however I want. And only to find out that, wow, like I thought I was good until I wasn't. And that's often how financial situations develop. It's like, I didn't see it coming until it was right there on my doorstep. Right? Like that's what we can't take the chance because we can't go back. You can't go back to being 25 or 35 if you've already gotten to 55, 60. You've got to start making the right decisions. And, I think we can help you do that.
Wow. Thank you for that, Mike. And I appreciate it. So before we wrap up, how can they get in touch with y'all? Like the website, how can they get a copy of the book? I know it's digital because I have the digital.
Yes,
and
sir.
and Russ even late say, we have an audio version with our voice on there too. So how can they get a copy of that or reach out to y'all to maybe schedule a conversation?
Sure. So incomeplanhq.com is our main website. You can learn all about us there. You can book complimentary consultations with us there as well, like Mike alluded to. As far as the book goes, beyondbreakevenbook.com, you can grab a free copy of the PDF version, the flip book, and the audio book there. It'll also take you to where you can purchase it, either the Kindle version or the audio paperback or hardcover on Amazon. But beyondbreakevenbook.com is where you can grab that.
Wow. And so did y'all hear what Russ just said? Free. So they're giving y'all knowledge for free, right? And it's not what you know, is what you're going to do with it when you get that knowledge. Are you going to reach out to them? Are you going to go to their website? Are you just going to start having a conversation with yourself, with your significant other, with if your parents are still around, have a conversation with them? Because like we said, it doesn't stop at an age. You can start today. Start now. And one of my questions I want to leave y'all with is, if not now, then when? That's what I'm telling myself, King.
That's right.
If not now, when? Because I shared my story with y'all. Like, if I did not have the courage to come out and share my story and journey, I would have been still saying, if not now, when, Kings? Do it now.
No doubt.
Do it now. And I'm going to leave this thought right here. And I just want to say thank you to Russ and Mike for coming in and sharing a little snippet. Cause we could be on here. I say, how long we got? I said, look, we could go until the tape stops recording. Y'all know back in the day. But you know, we want to be respectful of people's time because we want y'all to come back for more. Reach out to Mike and Russ for more detailed explanation. Get the book. But here's some questions I want to leave you with. First one. Have you mapped out your lifetime tax exposure? Have you? Do you know your claiming strategy? Do you? Have you stress tested the sequence risks? For the ones that are married, is your spouse protected? And the final, are your income sources coordinated? Like a coordinated attack? Like a 1-2 Mike Tyson punch?
Mm-hmm.
If any of those questions are up to consideration, reach out to Russ and Mike, and they got y'all covered. And here on the VET S.O.S network, remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. And what is that transition? From financial irresponsibility to financial responsibility. That's a transition. From having no wealth to having wealth. That's that transition. From reaching out to Russ and Mike and their team, that's that transition. So you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that lifeline. We're here to help. Until next time, everybody, take care. Peace. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and just share. Until next time, everybody, cheers.